Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Sean here at Top Speed Pro and Performance in Addison, Texas. We've got another video for you guys today, and we're going to be talking about just general exhaust installation tips, okay? Specifically with a catback or dual exit system, which is really going to be considered a full exhaust replacement. So as you can see behind me, we've got a full catback system. This is a full dual exit system. And first things first, the first thing you want to do when you're replacing an exhaust is, of course, you're going to have to remove the factory exhaust from the car. So let's assume we've got this car up on a lift for a professional installation. There's really no way to properly install an exhaust without having it up on a lift, especially one of this size. There's no way to properly hold up the exhaust and support the exhaust when you're trying to work on it. You need leverage, and the only way to do that is to have this thing up on a lift. So first things first, we're going to start by removing that factory exhaust. What you're going to want to do is you bring it, as you take it off the car, you're going to want to have it lined up and mapped out on the floor. So you want to make sure you give yourself enough space on the floor to map everything out in order on the way that you're pulling this exhaust off the car, right? So give yourself enough space to put each component on the floor with hardware and map everything out together as if it were still on the car. So we're going to have it all mapped out here. The next thing you want to do is take your new exhaust out of the box and map it out right next to the old exhaust, making sure you've got all the pieces in place to match it properly, because although some of the pieces may look the same, they might have different lengths, they might have different bends. So you got to make sure you've got the right components on each side, the left side, the right side, etc. So let's make sure we've got everything mapped out on the floor, then we can properly start our installation. So with any installation of an exhaust, you always want to start on the front of the car. This makes a lot of sense because you're going to find out why later. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So you'll start with the front components. So in this case, we'd be connecting to the catalytic converters or the headers. So you've got these first two pieces. You'll notice we've got clamps down here. These happen to be clamps, but in a lot of cases, you're going to have flanges here, not clamps. So just kind of keep that in mind. So you've got these first two components here. You're going to install your clamps loosely. So everything's going to be loose once you get started for the beginning, okay? And that's going to go all the way back. Keep all of your hardware loose. So second component, you've got your Y pipe here. So at this point, this is stainless steel exhaust. This thing's going to be pretty heavy. So you're going to need to have some support to hold this up, right? So you're going to want to use exhaust jacks. And there's basically a platform with the jack that has different lengths where you can go up. You'll be able to put those under here to hold this up. So that's very important. It's nice to have a helper, obviously, but you're going to need that helper further back, and he's not going to be able to hold these up all the time. So you're going to want to have exhaust jacks for that. So now we got back to this portion. These clamps, again, loose. Once you get these in, these two components, these pipes slide back and forth. So we're going to need that sliding back and forth to adjust it as we go. So these are going to be on, but they're going to be loose, okay? You'll also notice we have a hump right here in the piping. It's very important to know that this hump typically is going to go up, not down. So you don't want to have it upside down. These measurements are different. So if you flip this over, you know, you're not going to have the right fitment. So make sure you know this matches up to your factory exhaust in terms of where the hump is. So now we've got back to this portion again. This is still loose. Here, we're going to probably need another exhaust jack to hold up this portion as well, okay? Now, when we get to the rear portion, you'll notice we've got flanges and bolts here. Again, everything is loose at this point. But before we even put this hardware on, you're going to notice on the very back, we've got hangers. So these hangers we're going to have to install first on both sides. Now they're going to be on rubber hangers, so these are going to be adjustable. But before we even put this flange hardware in here, these are going to have to be up and in the hangers. So those are all very important pieces to remember. Now again, one of the most important things to remember, and one of the most common mistakes that people make when installing these exhausts, is they'll tend to tighten the hardware on one side completely, and then they'll notice that when they go to tighten the hardware on this side, you're going to have this a little jagged. It's not going to be straight. You'll also notice it might not be centered underneath the diffuser or the bumper. So it's always important to have a helper push this portion of the exhaust up all the way to where it's actually touching the bumper, and then rotate the tightening of the hardware one side, one side, one side, one side like this, while you have your helper holding this up. So that helper is very, very important at this portion, okay? You want to make sure that you've got this pushed all the way up, and when it comes to tightening the hardware here, you also want to have your helper push this up against the body of the car, because when you let the hardware loosen, when they let that go, it's going to sag perfectly. If you just let this exhaust sag while you try to tighten the hardware, it's going to sag too low, and ultimately when you get back here, it's not going to be centered and it's going to be jagged. So it's very important to keep everything loose and start front to back. Start tightening your hardware here, pushing this up against the body of the car, tightening your hardware here, and rotation, tightening your hardware here. And again, you may have to do some adjustment when you get to the final portion. Let's say it doesn't line up right. Loosen this hardware here, left to right and right to left, adjusting this way and this way in order to get it centered. So there's always some adjustment. Don't expect it to get right on the very first try, because you're typically going to have to do some adjustment along the way. So that is the standard installation for any dual exit catback exhaust. You know, we sell quite a few of these. We also do installations here at our shop in Addison, Texas. So if you need to have your exhaust installed, please give us a call for any of our North Texas customers. We'd love to have you in. We can do the installation as well as give you a little consultation on what it's going to take. So we hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more videos from Top Speed, and we'll see you on the next one.